So if you want the real movie experience, of course, you're going to need something to support the sound for that. So Steve is back with two options for you. Steve, what have you got for us?
Well, I'll kick off with the Arcam AVR31, which is their flagship AV receiver with an equally flagship price. I don't know what you meant about prices dropping, because this one isn't cheap. It's £5,799. Why is it so expensive? Well, partly because it includes Arcam's Class G amplification. This uses a conventional output stage fed by two power supplies that are introduced according to signal demand. Arcam believes that this approach is smoother, thus avoiding glitching or distortion typically associated with this type of amplification. Basically, what that means is it's very responsive and very powerful. It's also quite pricey. I should stress that whilst the AVR31 can decode 15.1 channels, it only has 7 channels of Class G amplification built in. So if you're looking to do a fully immersive system with more than 7 channels, you're going to have to add additional amplification. To do that, obviously Arcam makes Class G power amps for that very purpose, but that does, of course, also add to the cost of the system. The 31 is their new flagship, but actually it's been around for a few years now because it was previously the AVR30. The difference between the 30 and 31 is they're both identical, except that the 31 has a new HDMI 2.1 board on it. So you've got HDMI 2.1 inputs and outputs, which basically means that you can now pass 8K, 4K 120, all the HDR formats, VRR, ALM, so all the next-gen gaming features. So if that's something you're interested in or it's important to you, then obviously you're going to need to get the 31. Although if you already own an AVR30, you can pay to have the HDMI board upgraded. So that's still an option for you if you need it. It supports Dolby Atmos, it supports DTS:X, it supports Auro 3D and IMAX Enhanced. So that's every single immersive audio format on the market. It's a pretty stylish looking AVR for, AVRs aren't normally known for their style, but it looks quite nice. It's got a two-tone effect. It's very well made, and it has a large full-color LCD display, which I really like. So that shows you things like, if you're listening to music, it'll show you album art, that kind of stuff. So it looks good. And if you look at the rear, where all the connectivity is, it's surprisingly stripped down. A good approach, in my opinion. Keep it simple at the back. It's mostly dominated by HDMI. There's also analog and digital inputs as well, plus obviously the speaker cables. Since it's only got 7 channels, there are only 7 speaker terminals, but obviously there are pre-outs for the other channels if you need them. So it's a well put together AVR. It is actually a receiver. It does have a built-in tune as well if you're still into radio. And I've got to say, I think it's a fantastic performer. Unusually for AVRs, it's a fantastic performer with music as well. So if you're into 2-channel, this will not let itself down. It will deliver a great performance. It's got 3 really large antenna at the back. So obviously it has Wi-Fi, it has Bluetooth, it has Chromecast and Apple AirPlay too. So it's got a full house of streaming methods. And if you're into streaming your music, this will deliver a really great performance. But obviously, I think anyone buying this is really going to be looking at it as the hub for a home cinema system. And in that sense, it's absolutely superb. It has Dirac Live, which means you can EQ the full system, not just for the room, but also for the low end, for the bass, and also to tonally balance all the speakers. And when you're put on something with a really immersive soundtrack, when I tested it, I ran it as a full 9.1.4 system, 9.1.6 system. I ran all 15.1 channels. Obviously, I had to add additional amplification to do that, but I did run it that way, and the results are spectacular. The steering is seamless. The sound stage is just absolutely fantastic. The bass is beautifully integrated, and it's that Class G amplification is really powerful and responsive. So watching something like Midway, which is with the big battle at the end, there is stuff flying all around the room, planes all over the place, explosions going off, flat blowing up in the middle of the air. Fantastic performer. So it's not cheap, but it definitely delivers the goods.
It's not cheap, but it sounds like you've given it a very good review. And incidentally, I love that on the Sound Advice reviews, at the bottom of the reviews, you let us know what it was you were watching, what you were listening to, and how it was behaving with those things, so that we understand how those features are making themselves known to you, or how those features are special on any one particular piece of kit. Now, as you say, this one is on the pricey side. And when I was talking about prices coming down, I was, of course, referring to the Denon. So can we take a look at that?
Yes, the Denon AVC-X8500 is reducing in price, partly because it's been around for a few years now. And Denon have just launched a new lineup of receivers. However, the fact that it's been around for a while, don't put that against it, because first of all, it's had an upgrade recently. So the full title, X8500HA, so the H bit refers to HEOS, which is Denon's multi-room system. The A refers to the fact that this has got a new HDMI board. So again, like the Arcam, they've added HDMI 2.1. To give you full future-proofing in terms of 8K and 4K 120 and all the next-gen gaming features in the HDR formats. So that's great. It's currently £3,999. Again, not cheap, but cheaper than when it launched. And you might be able to pick up some quite good deals because, as I said, it's approaching the end of its lifespan. This is an absolute beast of a receiver, though. It's got 13.2 channels of processing, and it's got 13 channels built into it. So you can do a full 13.2 channel system right out of the box without adding any additional amplification. It's all in there. It uses Class AB in a monoblock design, and it's really powerful, really responsive, and as I said, a bit of a beast. I mean, it is big and heavy, so bear that in mind if you've got a bad back. Connectivity, like I said, they've added HDMI 2.1, but unlike the Arcam, the back is quite daunting because it's just full of connectivity and analog inputs and digital inputs, and obviously all the speaker terminals for all those channels. But I do think that Denon are quite clever because they color code everything to make it easier to work out what it is you're trying to do and what it is you need to connect. Also, despite it might look intimidating, but the setup wizard that Denon have on their receivers is brilliant because it takes you through the whole process, making setup relatively easy. And there's also Odyssey EQ, which allows you to, again, use a provided microphone to EQ the entire system for your room, for the bass, and to make sure that all the speakers are tonally balanced. In terms of features, feature-packed, absolutely feature-packed. So you get Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, Auro 3D, IMAX Enhanced. You've got Wi-Fi, you've got Bluetooth, you've got AirPlay 2. It works with Google Assistant. It works with Amazon Alexa. You literally won't find a better specified receiver on the market. Actually, I keep calling it a receiver, but technically it's not, because it doesn't have. The one thing it doesn't have is a tuner. So technically it's an AV amplifier, which is why the code is AVC rather than AVR at the front of the name. But it comes in a choice of black or premium silver, and it is a fantastic AV amplifier. Again, I ran it in a 13.2 system, and it delivered the goods in spectacular style. Really, I mean, one thing I'll say about Denon is that their receivers and amplifiers are incredibly aggressive with soundtracks in a good way. The modern blockbuster soundtracks, you stick it through a Denon, it sounds amazing. I mean, you've got effects flying all over the place, and it really does bring it all together and orchestrate it in a very controlled and a very precise manner. I've been a big fan of Denon for years and owned many over the years, and I do think that they make great receivers and amplifiers. And when it was launched, the X8500 was their absolute tip of the top, the best receiver amplifier that they'd ever made, and even though it's a few years old now, it's still a stellar performer.
And you said to keep an eye on the price. So with the Black Friday deals coming up and then post-Christmas, do you think a bargain could be had here?
Yeah, I definitely think that as the new Denon amplifiers and receivers start to hit the shelves over the next month or so, the end of November will definitely be a chance to pick up some bargains. And I think if you do see it at a good price, snap it up, because I guarantee you will not be disappointed.
Steve, thank you very much indeed for reviewing those AV receiver and AV amp.